Come on in, welcome to my home. Today we're going to talk about organizing and storage and getting your house ready for taking care of somebody at your house. And I'm going to address the things which I can actually address wholeheartedly because these are the things that I've gone through. I will hit on some of the other things, like if you are bringing somebody into your house who's in a wheelchair, you need to make sure that your doors are 36 inches wide so that way a wheelchair can actually fit across or fit through the door. And you also need to think about things like your floor coverings. That's a big one. Getting your house ready to get somebody home, bring somebody home, is like, floor coverings are big. Now, I know for Mom, one of our biggest discussions has been and will always be throw rugs. She loves throw rugs. She thinks throw rugs are wonderful. I personally find them little tripping hazards that just sort of seem to say,
"Hey, is your insurance paid up?"
That's an issue. It really is. You want to make sure that your throw rugs, if you are using them, are down in such a way that they do not trip the person who's walking on them, and that they also don't slide with the person that is walking on them. That is a big thing. Will I ever get Mom to get rid of her throw rugs? Probably not. No. But I have used a few different ways to take care of the throw rugs. One of the things is we put rug grippers underneath her throw rugs so that way it stays in that spot. And they work pretty well. But there are lots of other things to consider. One of the things to consider is, where is everything? What are you doing?
Getting my favorite cup.
Why is it down there?
Because that's where I've always stored it.
When you go through your house before you bring that person home, the first thing that you might want to do is start moving things to where the person is actually going to be using them. That's really important. Not just the room where they're going to be using them, but in a spot where they can actually get to the item that they're going to actually be using. Because there are lots of things that you will find it makes sense that it's in that room, but it doesn't make sense that it's in that spot. And if you have somebody like my mom who loves to do things, she's a stacker. She loves to stack. She stacks all of her pots and pans and plates and things, and I'm all for stacking if it's one of those things where you can, the top thing that you use is like the same thing. You can stack plates without thinking about them. You can stack bowls without thinking about them. But when you stack things like the infamous pots and pans, and you have to keep getting out a frying pan and it's at the bottom of the stack, that makes it hard. In fact, we had a whole discussion about her kitchen and how she does not like to cook anymore. And I asked her, is it because she does not have her kitchen set up so that she can easily cook? Up until a few weeks ago, she had all of her baking sheets were underneath the stove. No big deal. Except they were underneath the stove on top of underneath all of the smaller baking items, so she had to dig everything out to get it. That's its own problem. I mean, that can be a crazy problem because by the time you dig everything out, you're sort of like, why was I even going to do this to begin with? Another thing to think about is arm height. Are things really at the height that you can reach them? Now with Mom's situation, and she cannot use her dominant arm, I'm grabbing my wrong arm because she's right-handed. She can't use her right arm, because she's not supposed to raise it up over her head. Well, that's cool and everything, and I should be putting everything at a spot where she can get it, but she's 5 foot, alright, she's 5 foot. She used to be 5'2", but that's a whole nother issue. So for her to have things where she can actually get them, that means that they would need to be out on the counter. And yes, before you even ask, putting things out on her counter is not going to happen. She would probably explode or something. So that's not really an issue. So can she use her left hand? Yes, she really can. Not that big of a problem, except for the fact that as you go through her cabinets and you look and you see there are lots of things in her kitchen which make no sense to be in her kitchen, but she likes them there because that's where they're supposed to be. And as I'm looking around, I'm going, realistically, we need to find a different spot to put these things so that you can have stuff where you can easily get this. And a lot of that holds really true when you come to something which you never really thought about, is the refrigerator. I know most refrigerators, especially the ones like we have, most of the stuff is down low. Good point. It is it's bonus points for having it at a height that she can get. However, she likes to decant something, which is another. Can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. Orange juice goes into a container, which is a glass container. Red flag. It's just like with your kids. You know when you have little kids and you don't want them to have glass because if it slips out of their hand, it will shatter and break and now you have broken glass and wet stuff on the floor. Well, the same thing holds true as we get older. Things can very easily slip out of your hands and shatter and break. However, the same thing holds true as we are of any age. Things can very easily slip out of your hand and shatter and break. And you ask yourself, well, why aren't we designing more for that? Why aren't we putting handles back onto things so that way you can grab it and pour and make your life easier? And my answer is, I don't know. I really don't know. Why is it that to pour her juice, I have to take the lid off of it and it actually gets stuck on there pretty tight because, you want to keep the juice nice and fresh? You want to keep it, good, so I have to pull it off using two hands. Why don't we make something that I could actually then just pour it using one hand? They do make those sort of things, but do you have that? It is something to really look into. Are the things which you are storing stuff in and the things that you have in your house conducive for the person who's going to be there? Is it conducive for even realistically you as you get older? Is your hand grip really strong? Or do you need to get a handle? One of the things which we have in my house, which they did do because this was going to originally be more for seniors, we don't have doorknobs. We have latches. So all of the doors have latches, which is really, really cool. And I'm like, oh, that's excellent. However, all of the windows also have a tiny little latch. But most of them are at a spot where if you wanted to unlock your windows so you could open them, you'd have to reach way up and pull down two latches and then get your fingers on that tiny little lip to pull it open. Wait, are you saying that once you get older you're not going to want to open the windows, which is highly possible, but it's one of those things where it sort of contradicts itself because, I'm looking at a door right now, because the latches are great because then I don't have to use my hands to turn the latch, but I also can't open up my windows. One of the things that we have a big issue, and I have this issue even in my house, where to get to something like if I want to close my mini blinds in my office, I have to climb over, or right now I have to move a piece of furniture and then thread my way past my monstrous aloe vera plant so that I can get to the little rods I can close my mini blinds. That's a problem. That's its own big, huge problem. You want to make sure that the person can actually get to the things that they need to use, or put them in a spot where they can. And I'll admit that one of the things that I do regularly is I have a tendency to put my TV remote on the cabinet right above the TV, which is really great until I sit down to watch TV, and then I realize that my TV remote is on the cabinet right above the TV. So then I have to get up, and why I don't keep it next to the TV, I don't know. That's why I can't sit there and go, oh, come on, Mom, you should be doing it this way. Because we all have those things that we put in certain places for certain reasons because they've always worked that way, but now they don't work. And I've done a video about that where we talk about how things don't necessarily, just because it was a tradition doesn't mean that it should stay being a tradition. And as you get older, some of those traditions are going to have to go. One of the biggest things that I am against right now, and I mean big, big, big thing I'm against, is using glass in your bathroom. I have seen some of the prettiest bathrooms that have all sorts of glass vases and glass whatever. If that breaks in your bathroom, most of the time you are in your bare feet in your bathroom. And I have done this. I've learned this through experience. I had a glass vase in my bathroom, it broke. It was clear, so when I stepped on the piece of glass, I didn't even see it. And guess what? It stuck in my foot, and I had to pull it out, and it hurt. It was bad. So yeah, glass is one of those things that you really are going to have to think about. But does that mean that now everything has to be ugly, plastic kind of things? Well, no. They make all sorts of different containers and things that you can use. It's up to you. You can find these things, but you really need to make sure that you have them available. The other thing which I've seen lots of people do is do the whole, well, that's okay, Mom, I will put this in this spot so that way when you need it, I can just get it down for you. And that's really great as long as you're there every time that Mom needs to get that thing. If you are not there every time Mom needs to get that thing, that means somebody else is going to have to get it. So you have to think about those times when you are available to get it for them and when you aren't available to get it for them. And some of you are going, well, they only use it once or twice a year. Well, that's great. But then they have to only use it once or twice a year when somebody is available to get it down for them. Is that really all that fair? Please think about your spaces, and it not only has to be accessible for them when they need it, it has to be accessible for them when they need it. They might not use it every day, and so you might be saying, well, it's okay to put this in an inaccessible spot, except when they actually need it. Then it's not. And I mean, that's one of our biggest problems with the way houses are designed for today. They are designed to make sure that it works really well for somebody who has full and total mobility. If you don't, it can become one of the biggest annoyances and inconveniences that is possible, because your house is not set up so that you can just go and get what you need and keep independently living, because that's one of the first things that anybody will tell you when they have to be taken care of, is the fact that they feel like they've lost their independence. And if you set the situation up so that you are taking away their independence by making them reliant upon you for little things, it's an issue. Now, I'm not saying that you need to rip out all of your kitchen cabinets and make it so that your house is now wheelchair accessible for the person in the wheelchair. It would be really nice if you did, and it would give them the independence, but I don't know what means you have. They might not even be the kind of person who wants to use that or would actually do that. But you do need to think about the fact that, can they get into the shower by themselves? Can they actually use the bathroom by themselves? Should they be doing this? I don't know. But when it comes to storing things, make sure that it is stored in such a way that they can actually get what they want when they want it. So that way you're not having to do that and they're not having to rely upon you. Maybe this means that you are now, instead of storing 20 pounds of flour in a glass container, you're now storing 20 pounds of flour in 5 different small containers that are manageable weight that they can move by themselves. That's something which would be really good. You're not taking away somebody's independence by just deciding, well, I'm going to store this in this really big, heavy thing. It's all nice and stored, or, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll put it in this big container. It'll be at a level that they can, but they can't lift off the container lid. Or they're going to have to try to shovel flour into this tiny little thing. No. Make everybody's life easier. One of the big things, and you heard me talk about this earlier, is decanting. Decanting is one of those things that you can do which just makes your storage look really nice. Once your storage looks really nice, then you're less likely to feel the need to hide it away. If you don't feel the need to hide it away, you're more likely to put it in a spot where it is easy to get to. You're seeing where this is all becoming this vicious circle, whereas the easier things are to get to, the more likely somebody is to use them. The more likely somebody is to use them, the more independent that person can be. If you let them keep their independence on some things, maybe like a lot of things, they're going to feel independent. They're going to thank you for this. But you're also going to have to think about the fact that they will fight you on things, because that's where I've always put it. That's where I've always kept it. And you're going to have to probably do the harsh reminding in a kind way of maybe we need to think about putting this in a spot where you can get this. One of the most horrific things that I came across was the day that my mom was down on her hand and knees getting something out from underneath her counter. And I was like, what would have happened if you would have lost your balance, her arm was in a sling, and you would have had no way to catch yourself? And that was when she suddenly realized, maybe I should re-evaluate where things are in my house. So since then, we have been moving things around because we want to make sure that she actually keeps her independence for as long as she possibly can. And I think that's going to be quite a while, but we don't know. For all we know, I could trip, break my arm, and she could end up taking care of me. And will my independence be like vague, will be massively restricted because my place isn't set up for that? Think about it. Look around your house and see how you can work your house out so not only it works out for the person who you're taking care of, but works out much, much better for you. Because I bet you're going to look around and find a few things which you could change and make even your life better. Well, let me know down in the comments what you thought about that, and I hope I get to see you again the next time you stop by.